We've actually been talking about on the program doing a little bit more of Orville news, that we want to do more Orville stuff, but we're trying to wait on the timing because we haven't gotten an official announcement about Orville season 3 yet. But this is interesting here. This is actually from the Daily Star Trek News podcast, which I thought was interesting because a lot of times you see the Star Trek people don't always play nice with the Orville people. But this is actually from Daily Star Trek News.com, and it says flags from the Orville will soon be headed to the International Space Station. And it says the Orville is heading into space for real. At the end of May, Richard Gardner, director of the Space Collective Ltd., tweeted the announcement that some flags from Seth MacFarlane's hit Trek-alike show would be headed to the International Space Station. From the announcement, in September 2020, a very small handful of the Orville flags will launch into space aboard an Antares rocket stored inside of a Grumman Cygnus spacecraft at the top of the rocket. Then a few days after launch, the spacecraft will dock with the space station where it will orbit the Earth at 25 times the speed of sound over the course of 6 months. So they're actually going to send these Orville flags that I assume were actually used on the show into space. They will actually be on the International Space Station for a period of time. And then I guess they'll come down and some hardcore fans will have a chance to buy them. That's my assumption. Had you heard about this, Dave?
I think I had seen something like on Twitter or something where someone had been discussing this. I didn't read the news item or the news article just because you can just tell by the headline. It's just mostly just a publicity piece. And sometimes I don't read the publicity pieces. Other times I can't stay away from them. But no, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I know for the Orville, they're trying to get any press they can to keep people talking and excited because, the show's been on a long hiatus, whether, in production and trying to finish stuff up before they can hopefully launch the third season. But no, I hadn't heard this. I mean, I'm not, well, I mean, I guess I'm kind of surprised, but not too terribly surprised because, of course, even going back to the original, space shuttle missions and stuff, they were always kind of putting something kind of cool or interesting, on the space shuttle and sending it up into space and bringing it back down to Earth when I was a kid, back when the, NASA and the space program was like a big deal, at least in my mind. I mean, I know the recent, was it SpaceX launch or whatever in conjunction with NASA, that was obviously a big deal. But that's been the first big, like really big in my mind anyway, space thing for like a little while, was actually that. So, no, it's interesting. It's interesting.
I do want to clarify that the flags, it says, will not be for sale, but they are offering, that Space Collective Ltd. Is offering the chance to purchase a personalized item that will go up on the same payload. You can choose from a custom name patch, a variety of small flags, or a small NASA pin, all of which will be flown in space before being checked out and shipped to you. So I guess the flags themselves, I don't know, I guess they're going back into Seth MacFarlane's collection, or maybe they'll be used on the show. That's kind of interesting too. So definitely this, I think you hit the nail on the head that this is being done for some publicity for the show. But I think it's a fun thing, especially for hardcore Orville fans.
Well, I think the really interesting thing would be if those flags were actually used in the show, like sort of like kind of like what they did with the episode with where they find the cell phone, the person who made the cell phone that was in a time capsule, where it's
that's a great episode.
Like these flags are from this era and they were on the International Space Station because of this, and they kind of feature into a story because those of us actually watching it would get a big kick out of it, realizing that those flags were really on the International Space Station for real, not just in the context of the show. That would be interesting. So
yeah, that would be interesting. So yeah, I don't know exactly what the reason is they're doing it. Like I said, like you kind of mentioned, I think it might be primarily for publicity. It certainly got us talking about it. So that if that was the intent, mission accomplished by the Orville.
Yep. You definitely you definitely managed to get our attention.